What up, everybody? What is good? Welcome to the Damn Dude podcast.
Damn, dude.
Because this is episode 99.
Damn, dude.
East 1990. East 1990. Dude, 99 episodes. January 25th or 6th is when this podcast was officially launched. We launched episode number 1. So this podcast was created during the prime of the pandemic. And for me to start this podcast was a gigantic risk. Now it's interesting because that risk hasn't necessarily financially paid itself back. And it's impactfully paid its way back, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is I paid a lot of money for this equipment I'm using. During a pandemic when I wasn't working, everything was shut down. My baby's like brand new. My teenager's eating a lot. I was living with my ex. We had bills, rent, the family, a dog, the whole fucking thing. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I need to. And it was one of those things where whether my ex was like on board or not, I was like, I have to do this. And people who really know me, they know that when I'm like, I need to. They know that I really need to because I won't stop and I won't shut up and I need to. There's something like I don't ask for stuff. I don't want stuff. I don't really get down that way. But I will say that when I know I need something, I will do that and I will get it and I will perform and I will act and I will make it happen. So I think that my ex saw that and recognized that in me. And, you know, like I said, because I don't ever ask for anything, I don't ever want anything. I'm just like, I need to get this. I need to buy this stuff. And it's like, you know, the one, what was that? My phone charger fell out. So a major thing was like, because I don't ever ask for anything or want anything or whatever, it's like when I say, dude, I need to buy this stuff, like usually people will take me seriously. Sometimes people will question it, like, you sure, this and that, you know, but it's like, I don't really operate off of are you sure's. I used to a lot, and sometimes when I'm in a moment of like weakness. But why I'm saying all this is because this could have very easily been looked at as you're taking money out of your child's mouth. Like you're not feeding your family. Like this couple grand I spent to buy all this shit, I've made $5 back. I'm going to just keep it real. It's like a laptop. I got a MacBook Pro. This shit costs like, I don't remember what it costs, like $1,200 or something. The fucking podcast equipment, that costs maybe, I forgot. I want to say close to a G, maybe another $1,200, $800, $700. Camera, another $400 or $500, $300 maybe, I forget. And then all the little cords and this and that, and memory cards and batteries and all this shit adds up. Little tripods and, you know, a travel case and carrying cases. So I'm a couple grand into this. Like, I'm at least about $3,000 into this, and I've made $5 off of a donation somebody giving me. So that's why I don't really give a fuck about what anybody has to say, because I'm doing this through the purity of my heart and as a gift to my future generation and as a gift to the people that this helps. So I'm not sitting here, oh, I'm the shit, this and that, but what I'm saying is, when we really want something, we can make it happen. So what does all of this have to do with what the topic of today's show is, which I haven't mentioned yet? The topic of today's show is starting over, especially as adults. Like starting over in terms of relationships, careers, housing, finances, family, friends, whatever, right? I guess that falls under relationships. So there's something that's really fascinating is for me, starting this podcast was a version of starting over. It's like, dude, I'm about to start something. I'm about to start doing something I've never done. I don't know how to do. I don't have a clear plan to make money. I mean, I did at the time when I first started this, I had plans to make money with it. And to be honest, I could have very easily monetized this. Like once you get past like 12 episodes and you get past like 30 something episodes, then people are willing to start fucking with you because they're like, yo, this guy's serious. Because most people, when they start a podcast, they're not going to get past episode 5, 6, 7, 8. They're definitely not getting past 13. And then once you get into the 30s, you're going. And once you pass that, you're pretty much, it becomes pretty evident that you're really in the game. You know what I'm saying? So I spend about 3 hours every week recording these. No, more than that. I probably spend about 4 hours recording, editing, doing this, that, for this podcast. And I don't get paid. I don't run ads. I don't do anything like that. I can, and I could, but I didn't. Why? Well, because the way I see things is if I'm ever going to start over or I'm going to start something new, it's got to be done through the gift of giving. A lot of us make the mistake of starting new projects or things for the sake of benefiting ourselves. We don't often go into things for the benefit of others. And I realized my goal was to give this out and to create something that's lasting and free. You know, even if I ran ads, it's still free to you, but you'd have to pay with listening through commercials. And I don't want that. Unless it's something that's actually worth having a commercial talked into your ear about. If it's something I use and I would die for, I'll promote it to you. If it's not, I'm not going to promote it to you. So straight up, like plain and simple, when it comes to starting over as an adult, it can be one of the scariest and most emotionally draining and tough things that we can face in our adult lives. You know, starting over, we often tend to focus on the money side of things. We're not looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at the money. So, excuse me. Starting over is an essential part of life. A lot of us will avoid doing whatever we can to start over as adults. Now, why we do that goes so many different ways. But the thing is starting over is so fucking scary. Let's say you start a new relationship. Let's say you end a relationship. Let's say you start a new relationship, whatever. That's terrifying. You know, to break up with somebody you've been with and you've been comfortable with and you've been living, your life is 75% good and the other 20 and the other percentage is kind of like, yes, you know, whatever. But it's like, dude, that's not all the way happy. So how can you shift that, change that, whatever, you know? I'm looking at it like my relationship got down to about 50-50 to where it's like half of it was incredible and the other half was torture. And I'm like, torture because I did it to myself. You know, it's not putting the blame on anybody else. I was torturing myself by staying in that position. And when we just kind of do that, we end up unhappy. And it's a big emotional burden and toll on us. So same thing. It's like if your career, you got shut down. A lot of us got to experience what it was like to not be able to go to fucking work anymore during this whole pandemic shit. A lot of us ended up losing or having to shift houses. I was homeless and sleeping in my car for a month during this whole thing. Finances, when they change or are unpredictable or something is dramatic or drastic about it, right? When family changes, if somebody in your family gets a divorce, if somebody has a kid, if somebody dies, all of these things are kind of represent different versions of starting over. So it's almost like we avoid it and we associate something bad with having to start over and restructure and replan where we come from and what we're about and who we are and what we're really after. So Starting over is a good thing. But check it. We look at it like it's this bad, bad thing. Like it's so terrifying. And I'm sitting here thinking about it like, well, what is so terrifying about starting over? Because if most people weren't afraid to start over, they legit wouldn't be in the job or the relationship that they're in.
Damn, dude.
That's some real shit. Most people, I observe most, it's so weird. And that's a whole other thing. Never mind. So, no, but it's true. Most of us are doing anything to avoid starting over, but what we don't realize is the magic and the power lies and exists inside of the reset, the start over. It's not a bad thing. It just seems like it. And the reason it seems bad is because we start inputting things into it that aren't actually there yet. So if you listen to episode 98, the last episode, we talked about past, present, future, and navigating how the old things in life impacted us and how that dictates how we act and relate to things in today. So the reason why I see starting over is so scary for so many people is because, just like the last episode, we're projecting our past into our future. And when our past is projected into our future, we skipped present and we're just in the state of worry, fear, confusion, and uncertainty. Because how can you be certain about anything if you've already created this predictable, certain future that's already scary and unworkable?
Damn, dude.
Right? Like, how is that exciting to live into? So, for example, in relationships, because I've had people get divorced around me a lot lately, and my relationship ended, and I'm looking at it and it's like, from the standpoint of being in the relationship when things are feeling good, we'll often just get complacent in that because it feels comfortable, and we just kind of ignore the rest of the shit till it comes back and we're like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? Until you go back and ignore it again. So oftentimes in that state, if we were to consider, I'm going to leave this person, oftentimes when that happens, we start thinking about, like, what are the natural thoughts if you're in a relationship and you were to consider breaking up with your partner, what are the thoughts about it? It would be, well, I'm going to be single. I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be lonely. What about finances? If you have kids, what about the kids? If you have a dog, what about the dog? If you have a fish, what about the fish? If you have a house, what about the house? If you have a car, what about the car? Anything that you share, it almost is like, well, what am I going to do now? How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? But the thing is, it always works. Always. Like, life will always expand and contrast to be able to fit in whatever you need it to actually. You know what I'm saying? That's why you've survived 100% of the things you've experienced so far. Right? Like, you've legit survived everything you've ever been through. Bro, we've survived everything we've ever been through. No matter how fucking scary, no matter how fucking unpredictable, no matter who did what or said what, or you felt this or what the fuck happened, you survived. We're here. You know what I mean? That's fucking incredible, dude.
Damn, dude.
That's to be celebrated already. Right? You're still fucking here. You made it. You survived everything you've ever been through. Everything. So why are you projecting the fear from when you succeeded at something into the future? Why don't you project that success that you've created and done into the future, right?
Damn, dude.
Most of us aren't projecting our successes into the future. We're projecting our fears from the past into the future, even though the fears from the past have gotten us to where we are. You know what I'm saying? So in general, we're kind of looking at this whole thing like backwards. You know what I mean? It's like most of us are sitting here saying there's two sides to a coin. Well, that's true, but there's actually three sides to a coin. You know what I'm saying? It's like we just accepted that there's two sides to a coin, But there's actually 3. You got the rim around the edge. You know what I'm saying? That's a third side. It's factual. It's real. It's there. You couldn't have the top and the bottom side without the side piece. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's how we like relate to our life. We go, there's 2 sides to every coin. It's this way or that way. And it's like, no, a coin can stand on its side. Is that not a side? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like, I hope that communicates. So basically, like, in our relationships, we say, oh, it's this or that way. And we relate to that like it's a fact and like it's true. But the thing is there's more to it. And if you just simply went, oh, there's more options, the problem would be solved. So we end up just kind of looking at shit like black or white, especially when it comes to major life decisions. And, you know, in ways it is, and in a lot of ways it isn't. There's many little factors to these things. So let's take this on the reverse, and let's flip the scenario around a little bit. And let's say you're in a relationship and you're choosing to stay in your relationship. That's great, right? But what are some of the fears that pop up and come up for us when we consider that? So everything I talk about, it comes from a personal place, I've experienced it and I've worked through it. So that's why I'm sharing it, and or somebody else is asking me to speak on it. At the same time, I'm not going to speak on stuff that I haven't experienced myself. Like, if I don't know, I just tell you I don't know. Like, I have no problem saying, dude, if I don't know, ask somebody else. Like, let's go figure it out. You know, that's one of my favorite things. I love when I don't know something, because then I've learned to say, and I learned this in sales back in the day, is if somebody asks you something, don't pretend you fucking know. Don't give a bullshit answer. If somebody asks you something and you don't know, say, that's a good ass question. Let's go find out together. You know what I'm saying? So that, like, I think that when we can kind of take on that perspective, it's really powerful. So let's say we were to consider the things we're staying in a relationship. What is there to consider? So for me, I'm considering all these times I feel unhappy. If they just keep adding up and I don't ever get the actual clarity or clearing that I need from going through that shit emotionally, I'm gonna fucking explode. You know, I'm gonna or implode more so, and cause all sorts of like cancers and stresses and sickness and all this shit, which I was doing. So this is a trip, and a lot of people don't consider this. If your relationship is bad, let me re-say this. Excuse me. When my relationship was bad, I would go through phases of like my fears would shift. The fears that would come up of I'm going to stay in this would be, damn, my greatest fear of staying in this is being ultimately unhappy forever. What if I never felt like I'm heard? What if I never felt like I'm understood? What if I never feel like my point doesn't matter or come across? Like, can I live with that forever? And I'm like, fuck, I can't. You know, because I was feeling in the relationship. It got to a point where communication was so broken that it was just kind of like we'd have to forget about the shit and just meet here in the present time and operate off of present. But there's still so much emotional baggage behind it that we're not actually all the way present. So what I realized what was happening, just like in the last episode, was I was taking my past and putting it in my future. Now, because I understand this concept, I was kind of, I was working through it with some tact and some sense, but like I kept putting my past into the future. I kept comparing what had happened already and then blasting that into the future. So I realized this and I caught it, and we went through couples therapy and counseling and all this shit. And it was like, it kind of explained everything, the way I was thinking and the way she was thinking. It all added up, and we completely understood. We just understood something was broken and missing, that we kind of went too far, that we don't know how to go back and correct on our own, So that's where you need to go get help. So it's so fascinating, because when we look at relationships, we don't even understand where we learned our idea about relationships from.
Damn, dude.
So, for example, like, who taught you about relationships? Who taught you how to be in a good relationship? Oh, wait. Like, really, answer the question. Who taught you? A lot of us either say, I don't know, or we say, oh, my parents or my grandparents were a good example of whatever, whatever. That's cool, but did they actually teach you about it? You know what I'm saying? Because there's a big difference between somebody just modeling something and actually taking the time to teach you about it. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? So I think once we start looking and analyzing, like, dude, I really don't fucking know who taught me what. I kind of just absorbed all this shit and I created this expectation and this idea of what the ideal relationship's supposed to look like, act like, be like. And if it's not that, then it's all fucked up. You see what I'm saying? Like, I had this whole fucked up, like, weird view. So I'm kind of like, I kept putting my past into the future, my past into the future, my past into the future. So what I was doing was just creating this confusion continuously. I'm not being heard. So next time this happens, I won't be heard. Every single time that, oh, you never listen to me. You know, it's like I start thinking and communicating like that. I'm like, dude, that's not a good or powerful way to communicate because I'm just completely out of touch with my emotions and I'm not present whatsoever. So, you know, the same thing applies to money. I'm doing this with money right now. I'm freaking out because rent's due in 2 days and I got to figure something out. I kind of got a backup plan, but it's weird and this and that. There's all these strange factors, right? So with that being the case, it's like in the past, I remember when I couldn't pay rent before and I didn't have an answer and I just had to say, fuck, sorry. You know, let me work hard over these next couple of weeks to like produce something to give you, you know? So I see it's like we do this with financing. We do this shit or finances. We do this shit with family. Think about holidays. Oh, I got to go see Uncle Bill such and such. He's a fucking dick. He's going to talk about politics and fucking whatever, right? He loves Mike Pence. Like, oh, what the fuck? Like, you know, some random shit, you know, and you go, he's going to be like this. So what if rather than projecting that already certain predictable future, or sorry, what if like we took that past that we're like certainly predicting is going to happen into the future and altered it? What if you can do that? So when you show up and you got to see Uncle Bill talking about fucking how great Mike Pence is, or I don't fucking know Mike Pence. I don't know if he's a good dude or not, but it's just a random figure, right? So who's controversial. So let's say instead of this year, you say, he's just going to fucking tell me about Mike Pence and fucking politics and this and that. I don't want to hear this shit. Rather, that's already predictable. You already know that. So what good is that? That means if you know that, you are responsible for making a difference and change in how that interaction goes. So rather than putting the past into the future, that's what that is, we be present and we plan to be present and we leave the past where it's at and we let Uncle Bill show up how the fuck he is. And we say, Uncle Bill, what's up, dude? And he's like, yeah, you know, that's cool, but my job and Mike Pence and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, fuck. You know, you feel that trigger. You feel that old relatability to the past of why you don't like this dude or why he's annoying or whatever, or why you don't want to be there. But now instead, let's say we took responsibility for it and said, Uncle Bill, why the fuck do you love Mike Pence so much? Or how come every time you show up, we talk about this? Like, what is it that really is so fascinating to you about it or about him or whatever? Now, all of a sudden, you got a whole new different story, because what's going to happen is he's not going to start telling you about Mike Pence. He's going to start telling you about himself and how all of this relates to his world and why it's important and why it's impactful to him. So now, next time you come back for the holidays and you see Uncle Bill, you're like, dude, Uncle Bill's a little fucking out there and crazy, but at the same time, he's very insightful, and I get why he's crazy the way he's crazy. You see what I'm saying? We have the power to control, to create, not control. We have the power to create the things that we're already so certain of in a completely different light just by taking personal responsibility for it. So if you know somebody's a certain way, it's now on you to act different.
Damn, dude.
And that's the fucked up hard part, is taking personal responsibility. A lot of us don't want to do that shit because we don't know how, because we continuously put our past into the future and we're not actually present in real time with our motherfucking selves.
Damn, dude.
So what we're finna do is we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna be right back.
Damn, dude. This world we living in, man, it ain't nothing but drama.
Oh, shut your mouth and get naked. Bitch, I'm connected. And ain't no bitches singing on this record. What up, everybody? Yo, if you hear me saying a bunch of offensive shit, it's because I grew up in the 90s. And I've been listening to that type of music since fucking like 6th grade, dude. So never mind me. Nah, whatever. I don't give a fuck, actually. So, I want to say this real quick. Hold on, sorry, writing a note. Okay, so I'm on day 51 of 75 hard, and I'm also you're not supposed to do that on podcasts, but I just did it. So I'm on day 51, 75 hard, and I'm on day 2 of no weed. And holy fuck, I love my weed so much, dude, that it's hard. So here's another example. I committed to no weed till the end of my 75 hard program, at least, till I reevaluate and reassess. So I love weed, dude. Like, it's one of my favorite things. Like, it doesn't smoke me. Like, I got a good grasp on it. It's just my preference, you know? But I realized, like, if you want some different shit, you got to tap into different things. And if there's some, like the Bone Thug song says, if there's something you got to give up to get everything you want. And I'm like, damn, there's more that I want out of life that's beyond this, you know? So I'm continuously putting my past into my future with weed. And I realize that, all right. Oh, it's time to smoke. It's nighttime. It's, you know, I'm about to go to bed. It's whatever. Like, all those little things like that is me putting my past into my future and just kind of skipping the present, because I just automatically go to smoke. So yesterday and today, I'm like walking to my bong and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck. You know, I put my grinder somewhere else. I put my fucking weed jar somewhere else. I did all that. And I'm like, oh shit. It's weird because it just disrupted my habits. And it's like, that's already what's always predictable for me. So I changed it up and now shit's a little bit different. You know, I'm creating a new I'm creating a new future for myself to live into by altering my past and present habit, by altering my past habits, being aware of them in present time, which alters the future of them. So with that being said, I think it's so fascinating that we're actually able to create futures that are bigger than what people can even see in themselves for them. Does that make sense? It's like we can create an idea or a vision or a way of being that when we acknowledge somebody, it really inspires them and goes and has them be like, I am like that. So for me, it's like when anybody calls me smart, I don't know how to take it. Or when people call me wise, like, yes, I've been working towards that. But at the same time, I don't know. It's like I don't know how to take it because I'm not. I don't know. It's just not what I was called for the first half of my life. It's called quite the opposite. So what's interesting is I had an example of this. I had 2 examples today. And it just tripped me out because I got the compliment that, you know, what I have to say is wise and smart. And I was just like, fuck, that's so hard for me to accept. When I get a compliment of that magnitude, I put my past into my future because my past goes, no, I'm dumb. No, I'm bad at school. No, I'm not smart. That's what my past says. So I put that in there and then I stop and I say, hold on. That's really hard for me to accept, but thank you very much. Well, and thank you, not but. And then I start making room to accept it because I'm like, damn, I have dedicated the past however many years to learning and practicing being expressive and undoing all the programming and bullshit that school and society has taught me to allow myself to live a life that I love how I want to based on my own creation. You know what I mean? So I had another example of this happen where another friend of mine had told me, she gave me a compliment bigger than I can accept. And I'm taking this and I'm doing anything I can to fit this into my future for myself to live into. I don't even want to share the compliment because it's beyond me. It's not it doesn't even have anything to do with me. It's just the fact that I went and collected these different perspectives in order to get to this. I don't know. Like, anything I know is not unique. Like, all this information is out there through thousands and thousands of people. All like happiness and success advice and anything is all the same. It's just through somebody's words. So that's the thing, is like, I'm no, look at me, I'm successful. That's not me. In no way am I saying that. But what I will say is, when it comes to being a free human and a free thinker, I am successful. So being that I'm willing to accept that when I wasn't able to before, I was told that I am one of the most important voices of our generation. That's so hard for me to say. I can't even accept it, but I'm trying. Now, it's hard to accept that because that compliment's just way too big. You know, that's not, like, even if I do become one of the most important voices for our generation, or when, like, what is that? That's, I can't claim that. You know what I mean? That's not something I can do. But if other people see that, then I know I'm doing my job. Like, I don't necessarily identify with that, but, well, see, look, I'm using a lot of excuses right now. That just tripped me the fuck out. Like, I don't know how to accept that. So what I'm trying to do is, like, take down any emotional baggage that I have that allows me to not have that sort of confidence in myself. You know? It's like, how do you accept compliments that are so big and it feels beyond you? You know, it's like, I don't feel like I've done the work to deserve compliments like the two I had just mentioned, you know? But, well, and see, man, that just like flipped me into all these excuse mode. When you hear me say but, you can tell I'm kind of like backtracking and I'm like insecure. So that's what's going on right now, just to kind of tell on myself a little bit. Excuse me. So, but what happened with this? I'm so appreciative for this, because what that does is it creates a new possibility for me to live into. Because if I'm sitting here doubting myself, and I'm like, dude, I did 100 episodes and people aren't fucking with my show, like, dang, man, you know, but people are, and it's making a big impact. And people said, yo, this really helped my life, or this really made an impact in my life. This has truly helped me. This brought so much insight. And I'm like, okay, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this. So if I can work towards becoming one of the most important voices of our generation, then that gives me that gives me a point to work towards. So now that I've heard those words, I have access to working towards that, because I'd never heard those words, especially applied to me. You know what I'm saying? So this all ties together because this has to do with starting over. And accepting a compliment that's bigger than you is a version of starting over. That's why it's so hard for me to accept being called wise or smart or insightful or something like that, is because my emotional baggage and trauma is blocking it. It's saying, no, remember, you're that little kid with the mullet who's dumb and poor and had shoes that disintegrated. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's who I was. It's like, fuck, you know, you were the sad kid. You were the fucking thug in high school. You were this, you're that. Like, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? So it's purely my emotional baggage that is blocking this new compliment. And I'm basically, when I block that compliment, I'm putting my past into my future again. That's what's allowing the compliment to not get through. So I stopped because I was like, dude, I don't know how to fucking accept that. And the response was, well, I'll wait. And I was just like, oh shit, that's hard. Like, dude, thank you. So, see, no, I love that because I feel like how I talk to people too. It's like, all right, well, what are you gonna do about it then? Like, fuck. That means I gotta do something. It's like, there's one thing, like, don't complain about your life situations around me because I'm gonna challenge, unless you want to be challenged and held to the standard that I know you can be held to. And I know for sure, oftentimes I see people bigger than they see themselves. Like, I see you as your greatest potential. I don't see you as your lowest potential. I see you as your greatest potential. So when people talk like that to me, I'm going to not necessarily call you out, but I'm going to ask you about it and be like, well, why? How come? Why this? Why that? Whatever. So we just, dude. So it's so fascinating that it's like, my point of all that was like, somebody can create a new reality for me to live into. I didn't know it was an option for me to be one of the most influential voices of our generation. I didn't know. Like, what in my past tells me or reaffirms that for me for myself? Like, what in my past experiences says that you are deserving of this compliment? You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's so hard. But the thing is, when I'm asking that question and I'm looking at my past to say, what have I done to deserve that? For some reason, I'm not counting the last like 13, 14 years. For whatever the fuck reason, I'm counting from all the times I was called dumb as a kid. You know what I mean? So it's like I start going from like high school backwards. But then I skip this whole part where I really did all this work and I really have done shit to potentially push me to being an influential voice of our generation, right? Let alone one of the most influential. Like, that's crazy to me. But that I'm open to it, you know. I'm trying to figure out how. Like, so what I figure is just keep being fucking real, keep being expressive, keep being honest, and outside of that, just keep being authentic. And I think that is what you're gonna get with me, is just authenticity. Like, you're not gonna I don't know, maybe that's inauthentic for me to say that, but my point is that I do my best to be authentic everywhere I go. And I think that is what allows people to see that, because we can only see in ourselves. We can only see in other people what we see in ourselves. So it's kind of, I don't know where to go with that, but well, no. So, I know. So check it out. If you give very high compliments to people, then that means your confidence in your self-value and worth is really good and really healthy and really high, because you're able to give that. And you can only see in other people what you see in yourself, or, you know, what you're capable of. So I really appreciate that, because that shows me that in different directions, we're capable of creating a new possibility for us to live into in this lifetime. And that's such a beautiful thing when we can create a new possibility to live into, because that's a whole new chance. That's a brand new start over. And starting over is the theme of this episode. But the thing is, it's like, are we when we have to start something over, are we starting over from, like how I described, am I starting over from high school backwards, or am I starting over from here forwards?
Damn, dude.
Whoa. Headphones just fell off somehow. So, you see what I'm saying? It's like the emotional baggage that we have kind of dictates that. You know what I mean? How much of your past experiences are you going to put in your future experiences? See, this is kind of interesting too, because if all your past experiences are of winning, you're going to have to take some L's at some point, because that's part of winning, is taking L's. There's no winner who's ever not lost. You know what I'm saying? They just know how to lose better than the next person. And that kind of has to do with some other shit too. It's like, if you know how to feel pain intelligently, especially emotional pain intelligently, and this works for physical pain too. But if we can feel through emotional pain and baggage intentionally and presently with intelligence, we get to clear all this jumble of past, present, future, and so it's like we have some clarity and understanding. Then all of a sudden our past stays in the past, and our present stays in the present, and our future stays in the future. And when those three things are in alignment, you're in alignment. You know what I mean? Like if we have our past, present, and future, if we have the context of if we can contextualize our thoughts and our feelings and emotions into, oh, that's just from the past. This is present in real time feeling. Oh, I'm just worried about the future. Like if when we worry, we can kind of analyze, whoa, is this from the past? Am I living into the future? Am I living into the present time? Am I living into the past? Where am I living into right now? So it's really the emotional baggage that stops us from starting new because we're so afraid, or, oh, that's the way things are, or whatever. We're just comparing to the past. And when we have attachments and expectations, that's really what gets us stuck in our past and future. Like we have attachment to past things and then if you have attachments to past things, that automatically creates expectations into the future because I'm attached to the past instance. So I expect it, like it went good that time. So I expect this to be good this time. And that's not the way shit works. You know what I mean? So what happens is that just goes attachment, expectation, which is basically past, future, past, future, past, future, past, future. Attachment comes from the past. Attachment doesn't live in present time. And expectations come from the past, which live in the future. Both of those skip the present time. You see what I'm saying?
Damn, dude.
So the more we can contextualize this, the more that it just fucking makes sense and is really cool. So just hearing this phrase alone, and a lot of you guys have heard this already, but for whatever reason, when I first heard this, it blew my mind. And it's just the phrase or the word or the idea of emotional intelligence.
Damn, dude.
Emotional intelligence. Think about it. Don't let this phrase or word just fucking fly by you. Really think about it. Like, have you ever thought and really thought about it, especially if you're a parent? What is emotional intelligence and how do we teach it? Well, emotional intelligence is just like it sounds. It's having intelligence in and around your emotions. It's knowing how to navigate through emotions intelligently. The same way that if you had intelligence in math, you would know how to work through the problems and that they gave you. You would know how to work through these equations. You see what I'm saying? So same thing. It's like, well, now instead of the equation being 3 times whatever times x divided by whatever, rather than that, the equation is now sadness, happiness, loneliness, anxiety, depression, freedom, all these things. Like it would just be having an intelligence around those things, having an understanding of, oh, wow, this is what sad feels like. Knowing what to do with those feelings and thoughts and emotions around all of it. You know what I mean? So emotional intelligence to me is the one thing that's truly missing in school and families and general conversations. Because most of us are just living out our emotional baggage, we're not in the present. So we don't even have a place to start with emotional intelligence. So also another one of my favorite phrases that I learned about is interpersonal intelligence. It's kind of the same thing, but it's a little bit more specific to, probably should have pulled up the definition, but basically it's like interpersonal, like just like it sounds. It's like how to have intelligence when dealing with people, working with, I don't want to say dealing, but when working with people and interacting with people, it's intelligence around that, person to person. And interpersonal intelligence, I think I heard of that first before emotional intelligence, but that kind of just led me down this whole thing of like, holy fuck, how do I grow that? How do I cultivate that? How can I have this in present time all the time? Meditation was a big thing that helped me with that. Meditation, like, definitely helped with interpersonal intelligence and emotional intelligence. Like, they go hand in hand because you can't really have interpersonal intelligence without emotional intelligence. And I mean, suppose you can kind of have emotional intelligence without interpersonal intelligence. Like, I think that's possible, but I don't think it works the other way around. So it's interesting that starting over is really this huge emotional thing, and it's like, it's so scary, and we get into our feelings and we get depressed, and we start making up stories and we start making up scenarios. And oftentimes in that zone, we create what the worst possible case scenario is. And then we just kind of ride that for a while. And then it's like, well, now what? You know what I mean? So I think the quicker, this is why emotional intelligence is important, is because it allows you to get back to reality quicker. Wow, I feel sad. I should take the time to go fucking cry. I feel inspired. I should take the time to go fucking feel inspired and cry. I feel pissed. I should take the time to go for a run. I feel whatever. I should take the time to do whatever, right? That's how this works. So if we could just all practice and learn as much as we fucking can about emotional intelligence and interpersonal intelligence, the better off we're going to be in life. Because happiness isn't luck. Like, to be happy, it has nothing to do with luck. Like, if you're happy, you're not, like, I mean, I guess you're lucky that you're happy, but you're not happy because you're lucky. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not happy because you're lucky. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Happiness is something that's worked on. It's something that's grown and cultivated and practiced. And when we don't grow, cultivate, and practice happiness, then it's just the opposite. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to be unhappiness and shittiness and not fun at all. So when I look at starting over, and when you guys look at starting over, what's the first thought that comes to mind? Like, a lot of times, like, I'm sitting here thinking about this for myself, and I'm like, I didn't really have a clear thought when I first thought of that, but looking back, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, when I look back, starting over, the first thought for me is like, well, I failed. That's why I have to start over. Like, a lot of times it's the first feeling that occurs, and why starting over seems bad or scary is because of that first initial feeling. But what is the first initial feeling? Have we taken the time to think it out or thought about it or anything, It's such a trippy thing. Like, starting over is good. It's not bad. That's pretty much where, like, everything dope really came to fruition or became cool, It's such a trip, dude. Like, I find it so fascinating that our emotional baggage is basically what blocks 100% of our blessings. Because if we had enough self-love to just accept the things that are, we wouldn't worry about it. And we would just do things that help and contribute. We wouldn't just worry and keep feeding into that worry. You know what I mean? Man, I just got really, really fucking tired. Like, I don't know what happened, dude. Something just clicked where I'm like, excuse me, I am so fucking sleepy. which is weird, dude, because I shared this on my Instagram earlier. Dude, I've been smoking. So, that was a lot of nothing. I've basically been high since 2006. And not in like this out of control junkie way, but more so like I prefer smoking weed. I really love weed. So, excuse me. Now that I'm starting over with it, it's like so hard because my attachment and my expectations. Well, my attachment to how it's made me feel and how I enjoy it and how I use it, the taste, the smell, the feel, everything. I put that into my future and I say, I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have this. And I start focusing on what I'm not going to have and what I'm going to lack rather than what I'm going to benefit. Because oftentimes we just can't see what we're going to benefit. Like, how do I even see what I'm going to benefit from stopping smoking? You know, it's like, well, you're going to have the clarity and this is going to happen. You're going to think of this idea. You know what I mean? It's like you can't even predict. You can't even guess. Like, sometimes we just have to have faith that we're doing the right thing in the present time. And that's just it, really. You know, like sometimes we're just doing the right thing in the right moment. And there's not really any payoff or anything. But it's the fact that when you go through shit that's hard and you overcome it, you level up, you become smarter, you become more experienced, you become grittier, you become somebody of substance, you know? And that's what's kind of fascinating is like, if you look at what somebody's worth is outside of giving or not giving, it has to do with their self relationship, you know, their emotional intelligence, how they relate to themselves. And the more that somebody's overcame some crazy shit, the more people find that like noble or dope, and we consider them strong people. But the thing is, we've all gone through shit. So what can you overcome so that people can see you as strong? More importantly, so that you can see you as strong. You know, that's the hardest part. It's like our self-confidence and all this is out. It's either like so ridiculously over the top or so ridiculously low that it's sad. It's like there's a competition. It's almost like there's this unspoken competition amongst kids to see who can be more sad and pathetic than the next guy, who's more damaged than the next person. And, you know, we can blame a lot of like music and media and celebrities and shit like that for that. Because if you look at music, whoever is the most damaged is the most popular. You know, like if you look at rap, it's like if you go down the timeline, and I got this from the 50 Cent book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, is absolutely fucking amazing. 50 Cent is such an absolutely underrated writer. Like, holy fucking shit. Dude, next level shit. I was like avoiding reading his book, but I just kind of cracked it open. The first like 2 sentences, I just couldn't stop. Dude, it's so good. Anyway, what he was talking about is like, dude, like the reason that we all like are attracted and we give such like almost like these people are unreal, you know, like why we give that status to these people is because it's like they're not human, because it's like this person's so damaged he'll really just kill anybody at any moment. You know, it's like you don't really know people like that. Even killers in real life aren't necessarily like that, you know. So it's kind of fascinating. He's painting the picture. He's like, look at NWA. Like if you just look at the timeline of music, you know, it's like, look at NWA. They're very damaged people, like in the sense of emotionally damaged. You know, they've been through shit. They got trauma. And that's what's attractive to us. Like, yeah, we feed off that because there's something that's unreal about it, but at the same time, very real about it. You know, it's a very strange dynamic. So it's weird because we kind of like idolize that. So that's why it makes sense that the climate of how kids relate to emotions and pain and shit is like that, because that's what's been promoted. You know, all these little Spotify rappers or whatever, like I like it and shit, you know, don't get me wrong, but a lot of these Lil Blank, whatever, like SoundCloud rappers and stuff, that's what I meant to say. It's like, it's just this promotion of how sad I am. And it's like, yeah, a lot of it's raw and real, and they're not really meaning to promote sadness, but the way people are taking it is like, yeah, it's cool to be like this. And it's like, no, this was an expression of emotion and art. And you're taking it like, yeah, this is so cool to be this fucked up. Like, nah, that ain't how it works, you know? The fuck? Oh, my camera's being stupid. But, anyway, yeah, man, it's a fucking trip, dude. So don't be afraid to start over. Take the fucking chances. Have faith in yourself. Assess where your thoughts and beliefs live. Are they from the past? Are they from the present? Or are they living in the future? Where are you living? A lot of times, ourselves are not living in the same place or relation to where the fuck we think we're actually at, you know? So analyze, assess. What thoughts and beliefs do you have that are purely from the past? Which ones do you have that you're already putting in your future? Which ones do you mind or not mind putting in your future? You know? So if it has something to do with backing up your self-confidence and your self-belief and who you are, and it's going to actually help you take action, because belief with no action is shit, and that's just ego. So, yeah, I mean? So, on that note, hope you guys have a beautiful day. Love you guys. It's always a fucking pleasure. I'll see you guys next time on episode 100. Holy fucking shit. So, like I said, have a beautiful day. Much love, guys. Peace. 90 miles, push you